So we have a lot of questions for tonight, and we're going to ask the candidates to please keep their answers to a minute or less. Okay? I know that's hard for anybody over there, but
Remember, there are attorneys over there.
yeah, it's what can I say, right? So Karen, you were last to speak, so you're going to be first up.
Okay.
You'll be second, you'll be third, and then we're going to go backwards, right? So you'll be first next time. Okay, how will you do your job differently from your predecessor?
I think I addressed that already. I will be much more available to the public. I'll be very public friendly, taxpayer friendly, and I will make the decisions to take old stuff off the roll. I will be taxpayer, my policy will be taxpayer friendly and favorable to the taxpayer. If there's a choice between the taxpayer paying X amount of dollars and the taxpayer paying more, I will go with the lower amount for the taxpayer.
Thank you. Same question, how will you do your job differently from the predecessor?
All right, Dan is a friend, but as a friend, we do have differences. One of the primary concerns that we have in the office right now, and it kind of gets back to the fact that we've lost a lot of corporate memory. The staff we have is very talented. They're new, they're engaging, technology, they're more approachable to, more willing to use, and what we need to do better is to take advantage of that. We need policy, procedures put in place. As living documents that change and evolve, as the tax laws change, we have these, in those instances, when we go through attrition, when we have a loss within staff, we have a library, an ability to train, to maintain consistent knowledge. That is one of the things. The second quick thing gets back to the internet and the availability of mail information, and that's providing information like Ms. Inslee said.
Again, the question is, how will you do your job differently from the predecessor?
When I first started in the office, there was a tremendous amount of resistance to utilizing the technology that everyone had sitting on their desk. People were still working with pencil and paper rather than with Excel or Word or Access. I attempted to encourage people to start using these tools that were already available to them to help them do the job better, smarter, and more efficiently. So I think moving forward with our younger, energetic staff who's more in tune with technology these days, it'll be a lot easier to implement policies and procedures that require the use of the technology that we have available to us.
Okay, thank you. You're next. Next question is, what is your opinion of the real estate market and real estate future in Lassen County?
All right, my opinion.
Yes.
The real estate market, not only here in Lassen County, not only in Ladd, it's diminishing. Our tax base, our revenues from taxes that come in as a result of real estate transfers has been flat. We've not had the increase. What affects property values, what affects revenue coming into the tax base is the transfer of property, the new construction. We have a fixed amount of jobs. We do not have new development. The transfers tend to be relatively flat. People are buying as an investing, and we're not having flippers come in. Developers coming in with the idea, intent of whether there's a remodel or there is an investment in it to build. Thank you.
In the same question, what is your opinion of real estate market and real estate future in Lassen County?
The real estate market, as everyone knows, is cyclical. It goes up, it goes down, it goes back up, it comes back down. For calendar year 2017, we've seen a significant increase in the sales prices that buyers are willing to pay for properties. As far as the future is concerned, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, and it's going to go back down. Lassen County trails the rest of California in real estate trends by roughly 3 years. So we are now seeing the spikes and increases in sales prices that were present in Southern California and Central California back in 2015. My opinion is the market says what things are worth. And statutorily, the assessor is required to emulate the market when we make estimates of value.
Thank you.
Can you read the question again, or do you just want me to
Yes.
start?
What is your opinion of the real estate market and the real estate future in Lassen County?
There are certain areas in the county that are going up. There are certain areas, the Lake Nix area at the Eagle Lake has been flat for the last 3 years. My area has gone up quite a bit. Doyle, Herlong has gone up a lot. If that 395 does come in, I can see more people using Doyle and Herlong as a bedroom community. So that would be a great benefit for Lassen County because Reno's at its border and Reno prices have skyrocketed. So it's only a matter of time where people would maybe that work at the base, they work at the prison, they're gonna go, hey, we can go to Susanville and spend $100,000 less. We might have to go shopping in Reno, but that's gonna help us in the markets, especially right next door. I think Portola's gone up as well. So it's gonna fluctuate. Certain areas are gonna be up, certain areas are gonna be flat. And that's how real estate is. Real estate is subjective. So it's just a matter of what people are willing to pay. And
So our next question is, how are you going to cut the budget?
That is an interesting question. There is no easy answer to that, but I can say that if I'm elected assessor, there will be a vacancy in the chief appraiser's position, which is one of the higher salaries in the office. And I'm not sure if it's necessary to fill that position. Number one, because recruitment and retention in Lassen County, as many of you probably know, is difficult at best, trying to bring in people with the qualifications necessary for the certifications, etc. But more than likely, it will remain vacant for some time as there are no in-house employees who meet the minimum qualifications for the job. And also, moving towards technology, streamlining operations. Thank you.
How are we going to cut the budget? How are you going to cut the budget?
currently, I have 2 positions that I supervise, and one of those positions has been vacant since November. And we have distributed the workload between the other 4 administrative professionals in the office. So I have fought to keep that position vacant, because if the sales tax doesn't go through and we have to lay somebody off, I'd rather lay off in a vacant position than lay off someone that we actually hired just to learn another job or to be another person in the office. We have used technology quite a lot in the last 3 years. It used to take me days to close an entry month. Now it takes me hours to close an entry month. So I have picked up more work and more duties, and so that we could actually not hire another person. And that's how I would like to cut the budget in our office, by technology and redistributing the workload between the administrative professionals.
Thank you. Nick, the question again is, how are we going to cut the budget, or how are you going to cut the budget?
You know, it's a consistent and a similar answer. We either have personnel or our resources. And we currently do have one vacant position that, as CJ had mentioned, that position has not been filled. We really have a relatively tight budget. The equipment that we use in our office, the copiers, the printers, most of them, we have one on contract, most are hand-me-downs. So from the standpoint of cost of operation, we're relatively tight. Where will the money come from? It has either got to come from process improvement, utilizing more processes, streamlining, as both have said, policy practices so that we can get more done with less, and ultimately, possibly not backfilling existing positions that are currently vacant. If in fact we do go into deficit spending and the budget comes in, thank you.
Gary, you're up. And the question is, how are you going to make the hours more accessible to the public?
Currently, our office, typically the staff will come in 7:30, 8 o'clock. I don't think you come in at 7, don't you, Ben? Between 7 and 8, the staff arrive. And we don't open the door until 9. So there's really no reason, in my opinion, that we can't open the door at 8 o'clock. There are people there, why can't the phone ring? Why can't people come to the door? I only take a very short lunch, so I'm there, and Nancy will call me at lunchtime and say, hey, there's somebody down here, can you come and help them? And so I will go downstairs and I'll help the taxpayer, but our office is closed. So if they don't go to their window and ask for help, that taxpayer doesn't get help, they have to come back at 1. So we're closed between 8 and 9, 12 and 1, and we close at 4. So somewhere in there, to me, if I'm paying somebody 8 hours a day, they can be accessible to the taxpayer 8 hours a day and not 6 hours a day. So, and
Again, the question is, how are you going to make hours more accessible to the public?
You bet. As CJ had mentioned, we are open from 9 until 4, via phone until 5. Our staff is there. It would make sense to coincide with our other sister departments and be open and available for the customer needs. Our office does have a fair amount of flexible time usage in the sense that it was stated to us that there are not many benefits available, therefore, as long as your hours are put in, you are able to pretty much flex a bit on the front end or the back end. There's absolutely no reason we cannot have an opening at 8 o'clock and a closure at 5. I mean, at the worst case, it could be 3 days a week, or it could be 5 days a week. It could be based on the needs of the customers there. And there's no reason not to be able to, and we should not do that for the customers there. That's just a fundamental service.
Thank you. You want the question again?
Please.
Okay. How are you going to make the hours more accessible to the public?
The operating business hours for all county agencies were established by the Board of Supervisors. So there was an ordinance stating that, okay, we're going to have 9 till 4, and we're going to be closed for an hour from 12 to 1 for lunch. I always found it odd when I first moved up here that all of the county offices, with the exception of a few, are closed from noon till 1 o'clock, when a rational person would think, okay, I'm off on my lunch, maybe I'll run over to the assessor's office or the recorder's office to get something done on my lunch break, only to find that they're closed when you get there. It's a very simple solution. You simply schedule people with counter and phone duty to fill those areas so that there is someone constantly working at the front counter or able to answer the phones.
Nick, you'll be up first. This question is sort of similar to the first one, but in your opinion, what's currently wrong with the assessor's office and how would you improve it?
What's wrong with our office? I need to be quick on this. I think in the word wrong, what is deficient or what needs the most improvement in our office is the valuation of the property. That's both real property and personal property. Along with that, field time is critical for the appraisal staff. Field time basically means if there's something recently built, or if you're going into a neighborhood and you're doing reduced property valuations, Prop 8, where you're looking at a neighborhood, a community, a portion of an area, the field time is so critical to be able to get the look and feel for the condition of the properties, to get the census of that. So to appropriately use these spreadsheets and this data that we have that calculate these costs per square foot and give us these trends, we need to know the condition of the property. We need to know that from the standpoint of valuation, and that's a wrap.
Again, the question is, in your opinion, what's currently wrong with the assessor's office and how would you improve it?
I'd like to rephrase the question to ask, what are the opportunities for improvement in the assessor's office? Number one, staff development. We have, again, a very young, inexperienced crew who are very receptive to quality training. My knowledge and experience in property tax assessment would allow me to train these people to allow them to advance in the office. As I stated before, typically we can't recruit people who are qualified for, say, an appraiser position or a senior appraiser position. So it's really necessary to promote from within, and in order to do that, you have to train the people and give them the necessary background to be able to move up the career ladder. Thank you.
Again, the question is, in your opinion, what's currently wrong with the assessor's office and how would you improve it?
One of the other things that I have an issue with is foreclosure properties. I bought my foreclosure for $186,000 and half the roof was gone, the bedroom was down to the studs, and our office put $250,000 on the tax roll for that property. So I purchased the property and I put the money in escrow to have the roof fixed and the bedroom fixed, and we put $200,000 on the value. Okay, I'm okay with that. A friend of mine bought a foreclosure, she paid $105,000, we had $145,000 on the roll. So we're valuing foreclosures as if they're already fixed. And if you bought a foreclosure like I have, you know how much work goes into the foreclosure, how much more money you have to put down for when you buy the foreclosure. So that's something that I want to work on. If it's on Realtor.com and you're buying it at a fair market value, I think that we need to take a better look at that, even if we have to go walk through the property, see if there's any copper pipes left. Okay, thank you.
Edward, you're up first. And the question is, how will you encourage qualified staff to fill your lost 100 years of manpower?
Well, to say it again, training. There needs to be a manager in the office with the knowledge and experience to pass on to other people. Again, very often, recruitment is a fruitless exercise for the most part. People from other counties who may be in the same job don't want to take a salary cut to move to Susanville and work for the Lassen County Assessor's Office. Reorganizing the management structure of the office is probably the most important thing. Reclassifying some jobs, getting a position like an assessor's technician whose responsibility is to do work, valuation, appraisal work under the supervision of a qualified appraiser would then set them up to move up the career ladder. Thank you.
Me?
Carrie?
Yeah.
How will you encourage qualified staff to fill your lost 100 years of manpower?
I think that we as department heads, well, not yet, I'm not yet one. Eventually we'll be one, like Dean, And we all have the same problem. The prisons have the same problem of retaining people, getting people to stay here. So we need people to,
You're fired, Carol.
we need to offer bonuses or some way to encourage people to stay here with their families. Maybe, I'm not sure how we can do that as a county, as department heads, is even the prison. We need to get more industry, maybe, I don't know, something for kids to do. Get people to stay here, get people to want to be here. And if we can do that, then we will have that candidate pool, and we'll have the talented people, and they'll want to stay here. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that we need to, as a community, as a county, we need to figure out how to keep people here, keep the talented people here, keep them from leaving. And so that's how I think we have to start there. And then we can train people. People aren't ignorant. We can train people. We have certifications.
Again, the question is, how will you encourage qualified staff to fill the 100 years of lost manpower?
Our staff is a young new staff, but as it's been stated, are very talented, computer literate, the newer generations. By affording them the tools, including the software Ed had mentioned, computer access, by automating some of the processes. The software that CJ works with is a database that we share with other departments. There's the ability to add fields to that would allow us to do sorting, that would allow us to screen, that would allow us to manipulate the data so we could better review, present, and utilize it in the sense of appraisers and when we're valuing property. And I think when you feel good about the tools that you have within your job, you feel good about working, being thought of, happens.
That's it for the questions for the assessors. We appreciate very much that you came tonight and spoke and gave us a
Thank you.
chance to get to know you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
City Council. So, Mindy, you're up first?
Go ahead. You want us to expedite this and let's just kind of-
Yeah, you can. And you'll just alternate, basically.
Okay, that sounds good.
So the first question is, where has Susanville succeeded and where is there a lot of room for improvement?
Okay, I think as far as success, we have, of late, we have passed a property ordinance, a property maintenance ordinance. And in that ordinance, people need to keep their weeds down, keep trailers out of their front yards, and things like this. So we were successful in passing that ordinance, and so I think that's one of our successes. And what was the other, our failures? Probably said.
Where can we improve?
Where could we improve? We could improve by getting our police department fully staffed. We also need to develop an economic development plan so that we have a strategy moving forward. As far as bringing businesses into town, we could recruit better. And I think that's it. Is my time up?
Okay.
Okay.
Right? Same question, which is, where has Susanville succeeded and where is there a lot of room for improvement?
So Susanville has succeeded. You know, we have a beautiful community. We have wonderful people here, and that's a success in itself. Just to have, you know, all these wonderful people here that are obviously staying here and want to be here. Where can we get better? Let's bring in business. Let's bring revenues and taxes and things back to our community so that we can support everything that we need. Police departments, fire departments, parks, things for kids to do. And we can be much more successful if we have all those things back like we did when I was a kid.
Thank you. Brian first this time. How can Susanville be a more safe city?
So like I said, I've met with the police department. They need people. They need upgraded equipment. I've also been attending neighborhood watch meetings and get out there and I listen to their concerns and, and what they have to say. And just becoming a community again and all of us banding together against the crime and all of us looking out for each other will keep us all safe.
Yeah. How can Susanville be a more safe city?
Well, as far as city council goes, all city council can really do are establish policies. And we need to look at crime prevention policies in our town. I am honestly all about helping the poor. I am not about enabling the addicted. And I think a lot of that goes on, and that's why we are seeing more crime in our area. I think that we could definitely look into, I'm pushing and pushing for a panhandling ordinance because I feel like there's some aggressive panhandling going on around town. I think we could push it a little further. I'd like to see a no napping in public ordinance, and there are other things we could look into to make it safer.
Okay, thanks. The next question is, have you or a family member ever introduced contraband into a controlled facility?
Well, no.
Absolutely not, no.
That was quick. Okay, Brian, you're up. Next question is, what is your take on non-sanctuary city?
I think sanctuary cities, and this is probably going to go into the next question, sanctuary cities are a cause of a lot of the homelessness throughout California. We're letting these people just come in, we don't know who they are, we don't know where they're at, and they're living on our streets all over the place. And so sanctuary cities, I don't believe in them. I want to know who's here, and law enforcement should know who's here. And if they're dangerous, they need to go.
What is your take on non-sanctuary city?
I am not about breaking federal law. I think becoming a non-sanctuary city is the only way to, it's the only way to go. And I agree with Brian. You have to see who's coming in, and they need to be vetted. So that's my
Next question, why aren't city employees drug tested?
See, I didn't know that they weren't. So the truth of the matter is, City Council, the Brown Act prevents City Council from being involved in personnel issues. So I could bring that up, but I would have to bring it up at a City Council meeting in open session with the other council members. I did not realize that was happening. So I will do that, and then we'll all know.
Thank you.
The question is, why aren't city employees drug tested?
Honestly, I have no idea why they aren't drug tested. I didn't write the policies, and I know where I work, it's random anytime they want to, and I think it should be for any kind of job that you want to get, that boss has that opportunity to drug test randomly.
Okay. What knowledge do you have in regards to pension funding for city employees?
And honestly, I don't have too much knowledge of the pension plan for city employees. I haven't looked at budgets, I haven't looked at any of the plans, so I would imagine it's like most, it's ever changing as all of our insurance plans and retirement plans and all that, it changes, it seems like yearly, so I would imagine that they just change all the time.
So, City of Susanville, they are all CalPERS, which is California Public Employee Retirement System. And like I said, the City Council is not supposed to get involved in all that, but I am a CalPERS retiree myself, and so I understand it, and I get what happens, and I also know that CalPERS is looking at adjusting a few things. And really, like Brian said, it changes all the time. You have to go in and look at it and see what's going on. So there's my answer.
Okay. Next question, what will you do to help the homeless locally?
Help them? I believe what we need for the homeless population are more social service departments, ways to help them with their maybe behavioral problems or something. I would try to look into more programs like that would be of assistance to them in a deeper way than food.
Next question is, what will you do to help the homeless locally? Help the locally.
So the homeless locally, and we have Crossroads, which has outgrown itself. But I know there's been members from the community, and I won't name names, that have offered to take the homeless over to Reno or to other places that have places for the homeless. And a lot of their responses is, I don't want to go there because I feel safe here, which, is good for us. We feel like we have a safe city. But if we don't have the means to take care of it and they're committing crimes and things in our area, then we need to assist them to get them to places where they have it, because we really don't have the services right now to help them and to keep them safe, keep them warm, things that they have in other places and they're already established.
That's the end of the questions. Yeah, thank you very much. We will have District 5 up next. As soon as I have my sheet.
Probably 50 town hall meetings since I've been elected as supervisor for District 5. Nobody, not the whole board together, has even come close to that. I'm available to my constituents at any time of the day or night. If I'm not at my job, they leave a message and I always get back to them. That is a rule that I live by. Also, in my town hall meetings, I've also had votes about how people want me to represent them. So I follow what they tell me.
Yeah, you get to be first.
Yeah. How can you increase economic development in District 5?
Oh, that's another good one. Okay, we just got that solar array. That solar array is huge. It's the first public-private partnership on Sierra Army Depot. I have another significant one in the works. We'll see if it happens. It could happen. It might not. We're just now starting to see the efforts of 4 years of trying to put that together, the public-private partnerships where the county gets revenue and we bring jobs. So also this 395 thing, and I noticed the assessor picked up on that deal that that could bring us wealth in dollars in revenue. So that's got to tell you something. They have their ears open. That 395 thing is huge for Lassen County. If we can get access to Susanville from Reno, that's going to do nothing but open the floodgates. We also there are things starting to happen in southern Lassen County. You got to pay attention. That's one of the good subjects too.
How can you increase economic development in District 5?
So I'd like to respond first of all to a couple of things that Tom has talked about tonight, because I have made it a point to spend about the last 6 months researching and going to all of the town hall meetings and being part of what's happening, because if I am elected, I want to be able to pick up where he's left off. So one thing that I do want to talk about is the fact that the solar array is a private public partnership. However, those tax dollars, because it's a federal government entity, are not coming into the county. That's been verified through the assessor's office. There may be a trickle of tax revenue, but nothing near the $60,000 that was spoken about tonight. I also think that a 4-lane highway is an amazing idea. I think that that would open up economic development things for Lassen County. However, doing some research on that, we're looking at 25 to 30 years out. And I commend Tom for doing all the hard work that he's been doing, because I believe in that kind of long-term planning. But I want you to all understand, this is not something that's gonna happen in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Carrie, you still up? Next question is, what are the 2 biggest challenges to Lassen County in your opinion?
So the first challenge I talked a little bit about in my strategic plan, I feel like we don't have a direction. So I really think that it's important when you're running any type of business or government entity that you are on the same page with all of the departments and working toward a common goal. What do we want? What do the people of Lassen County want for our county? Do we want to turn into big cities in our county, or do we love where we live because it's outdoor recreation, wide open spaces? We need to go to the people and find out what they want us to be doing, and then we need to have a plan for doing that. That's what I would like to do.
Same question, what are the 2 biggest challenges to Lassen County in your opinion?
Well, first and foremost, it's the state of California. States and all the stuff they pass on to us, it's just getting more difficult to deal with all the time. The CalPERS, all that stuff. It's just, they're throwing all the expenses on the counties, and I don't know how the counties are going to afford it. I don't know. And another huge threat is the downsizing of the Army Depot. And if you guys looked at those papers I passed out, they put a significant amount of money into Lassen County. And if we do not protect them, and if we do not shepherd them, and we do not try to make them grow with 395 opening up, we stabilize the base. And Carrie's a little bit wrong on that, because as the consultant made a little bit of a mistake in Doyle, but he rectified it in Herlong. The 395 project.
We're still up, yeah.
Okay.
It's a long question here. What relationships or networks outside of the county have you established to benefit the taxpayers?
The benefit, okay, well, it goes hand in hand. The Association of Defense Community, with the congressional representatives from Mark Amadei and LaMaffa, I've established good relationships with both those entities, and that's going to help us protect the base. I've established great relationships at the state level with the California Governor's Military Council. That's another big thing. That's another big actor in the 395 effort. And that 395 effort is where we need to head.
What relationships or networks outside of the county have you established to benefit the taxpayers?
So I just spent 16 years working for U.S. Bank as a branch manager and business banking officer. In doing so, I've learned how to build relationships with many people. I have many contacts in both the lending and in business development through that job. I also have been a Seroptimus International of Susanville member for the last 12 years, and I have many contacts throughout the United States, as a matter of fact, internationally, that I can use for resources to network. But building relationships in my job at U.S. Bank was something that I really prided myself on, and I feel like Tom has done a good job in starting these relationships, and I am willing to step in and take those over.
Sit down here. I know it's confusing. It's confusing.
At least he's keeping track of it.
Yes. What are your feelings about giving more of our water to Nevada?
So I try to be a very positive person, but this is going to be negative. I believe that we have two resources that keep us in a position to take care of ourselves, and that is land and water. And I do not believe in selling, nor do I believe in giving our water away. And I know that there are currently some contracts where water is being sold through private parties, and the supervisors had to approve that, and I disagree greatly with that. Land and water. that keeps us where we can take care of ourselves. We don't depend on anyone.
So, I don't agree with the water going out of the county either. There is one instance where the water is transferred from Lassen County to Washoe County, and that's John Estelle Ranch in Cedarville. And he's got 15 employees up there who all live in Lassen County. He owns property contiguous to where the water is going. He's farming 100 acres, it's monitored, they watch it. He goes through a permit process. It used to be every year, I think it's every 2 years now, but it's very well monitored. And do I want somebody to come into Long Valley from Reno and take our water? Absolutely not. In fact, I was disgusted with the Board of Supervisors when they let Dr. Brown out in past Doyle out there put that pipeline in and start sucking water out of our aquifer to take it to Reno.
Keeps trying to escape.
I know.
I don't understand.
I know.
Why aren't county employees drug tested?
Well, that is also a policy decision, and I'm all for it. But I think there's a lot of legal entanglements with that, and I'm not really up on what that is, but our county I know they get drug tested if there's cause, okay? So if there's a little bit of cause, they get drug tested, but I think they have to have proof of cause, and there's got to be a chain of events for that to happen. But yeah, I'm for that.
Why aren't county employees drug tested?
I honestly did not know that the county employees were not drug tested for employment, but I do know that U.S. Bank as a corporation several years ago stepped back from drug testing people coming in immediately. However, they did random drug testing, and that seemed to be much more effective and much more cost effective as well. So that may be, I'm guesstimating, that's why the county employees aren't being drug tested at initial employment. But I would, if I have time, like to step back one moment, because I was at 2 town hall meetings where Mr. Hammond spoke about the water in Herlong and how they had excess water in Herlong and plans to use the relationship with Washoe County to sell that water. And so I just want you to know that I heard him say that, and that was his plan.
You're still on.
Can I respond to that?
No.
Okay. Can't go ahead.
Next question.
I'm skipping one question because it's already been answered. What will you do to help the special district fire departments?
Yes, I saw this one up there, and I'm so glad that somebody wrote this up there. My husband has been a volunteer firefighter off and on as long as I've known him, for 30 years. And I love that our community members volunteer in the fire departments so that we have access to quick response, especially in the outlying areas. I think that it would be very important to get into those departments. I plan on going to their board meetings so that I can get to know the volunteers and the people that are running the boards, and looking for funding for them. I just took a job with Lassen Family Services, and my new job is to take care of 17 state grants and learning how to fill out that grant paperwork. So I will make myself available to those departments to help them with that process.
Question is, what will you do to help the special district fire departments?
I've been to all the boards of these special district fire departments, and it's a very difficult thing. The state mandates these poor guys with all these new rules and regulations, and they're working on a limited budget. But the bottom line is we need revenue. We need revenue, we need tax dollars to go into those special districts to make them functioning. We need that by growth. That's how we get there.
Thank you. What will you do to allow new tourism business ideas to flourish?
You know, it's nice that Eagle Lake has finally got a little water in it. That'll help us. But, you know, I suggested at one time that we send a team to Cal Expo. And I don't know, that has never been done. But we need to get into those kind of situations to show what we have. And once again, back to that 395, and Carrie is a little bit wrong on that, because getting from where Hallelujah Junction to the first choke point will be fairly rapid meaning 5 or 6 years, if we can get this done.
You can do it.
We're gonna give it a shot.
What will you do to allow new tourism business ideas to flourish?
So I actually have already started working on this because as a member of the Chamber Board in Lassen County, I saw an opportunity and I love where we live. I've spent the last 6 months driving all over Lassen County and taking wonderful photos of all the beautiful things that we have here. This is an opportunity for us. So 2 years ago, I joined the Chamber Board. We actually have a very nice booth now at the Reno Outdoor and Recreation Show. I have volunteered on multiple days to bring people to Lassen County. This year, I was specifically in charge of getting volunteers that were very knowledgeable about the different areas in our county, Eagle Lake, the off-roading out in Doyle. So I think that it's very important, and I think this is our greatest asset. We need to play on that.
Don't go away. District Attorney. That's why we still have the audience here that came to hear the two of you. Let's see, you spoke first, right? To introduce yourself, so you're up first.
I didn't expect Steve to.
So a lot of people want to know this particular question by tally marks. What specific criminal groups worry you?
Well, if they're in fact here, MS-13 would basically terrify me for the citizens of the county here. But if they're not, and there's arguments as to whether or not they are here, then I say the next thing would be people involved in drug trade, because those who are involved in drug trade are the ones who underline all the other problems that are going on. People that are addicted to drugs. They're the ones that are stealing all the stuff from your garages, breaking into your houses, identity theft, everything like that, because they need that money in order to purchase the drugs that they need to survive. And so I think if you can get rid of them, you would get rid of an enormous amount of the other problems as well.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Evans. What specific criminal groups worry you?
In Lassen County, we've actually seen a huge increase in criminal groups, specifically things like Mongols, associations of La Familia, and of course, we now have our very own gang, Susanville White Boys. Not a joke. So those organizations definitely concern me. They concern everybody in law enforcement. And of course, who are they and what do they do? Well, one of the things they do, of course, is drug trade. Also, I think that some of them are involved in some of the increase that we've seen in violent crime. So these gangs are definitely problems. Definitely things we need to look at. No, it's not like LA. No, it's not. But they're still here. We need to deal with it because we don't want to become like LA. Obviously, the drug issue is another part of that, which goes along with what they're doing, and they need to be stopped. Drug dealers need to be taken off the streets, as well as the users, because that will decrease crime.
With California laws changing all the time, why do you feel you can do a great job?
Well, one of the reasons why is because this is what I've been doing for the last almost 14 years. And California laws changed throughout this whole entire 14 years. So I understand how it works, I understand what the games are in the legislature, and then I understand what we have to do to deal with it and to try to fix the problems that we're left with. Specifically, some of the things that happen are the reduction in crime punishments. So we have to figure out other ways to make that happen. Other things are changes in protective laws for criminals. Something that quite disgusts me, but it exists, it's there. So now what do? Well, law enforcement now has to do twice as much work as they did before because criminals are getting more protection than our common citizens are. And then what we have to do is make sure we work with law enforcement to make sure that that's seamless, and then we can actually prosecute the cases and move them forward.
Again, the question is, with new California laws changing all the time, why do you feel you can do a great job?
Because I understand commitment, and I intend to be committed to this job for whatever time it takes, hourly, 7 days a week, it doesn't matter to me. I understand commitment, and I've been committed to my wife for 49 years, so I do understand that. The other thing is that I enjoy challenges, and so the challenge here is to figure out how to get around the laws that the legislature has brought about that's causing the problems. And unfortunately, some of the citizens out here had a little bit of a hand in it too when they voted in some of these things. So you've got to be willing to spend the time to figure out the ways to get around it. And time is what I have plenty of to spend.
Okay. So, I think this one will have very quick answers. Have you yourself ever been convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony?
As to felony, no. As to misdemeanor, how far back do you want to go? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40
Whatever
years?
you think will be useful.
Well, if you go back 50 years, then yes, I was convicted of a misdemeanor, simple assault, and where it involved a fight, and I was convicted of that, fighting, 50 years ago.
All right, thank you.
No. That's an easy one.
So,
But I'll stay up.
I'm skipping the next question because it's directed to only one of the two, and we're about being fair here, so I'm skipping that question. Will you be prosecuting cases also?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's actually one of the ways that we could save the county money, because I am qualified to do the very serious crimes such as murder, and I'm the only one in the office who can do them. And so I will do them, and we won't be having to hire a special prosecutor to do those crimes. I'll be taking those cases. That'll save the county money, and it also means I'm going to be in the courtroom. But even when we don't have those cases, I'm going to regularly appear in court, and I'm going to make sure that my staff is not only led, but they also know that if they have questions or if something comes up, they have somebody there that's going to be able to help them.
Will you be prosecuting cases also?
The answer to that is yes, I will. I enjoy the challenge of the courtroom. It's really interesting. If you've never been there, if you have and watched it, it can go many, many different directions and just suddenly change courses just like that. So as to the more important cases, I most certainly will be involved with all of them. I will be either sitting in the first chair running the thing, or I'll be sitting in the second chair assisting those who are running it. The misdemeanors and lower cases, I'll probably try to fill in for somebody if they're out of town or if they're not feeling well. But those are just things where you just come in and go, you're here, we're pleading them, it's not no big deal to it. But as far as the important cases, absolutely, I'll be there.
I'm going to rephrase this question. With $1 million budget, what in your past should worry the citizens?
I'm sorry, the $1 million budget, why?
With such a large budget, what in your past should worry the citizens?
Nothing that I can think of. I've dealt with extremely large budgets. I was involved in a project actually overseas in Borneo where it was a $10 million budget that I had to take care of, make sure things were paid for, make sure people were paid, make sure things were done. And so I'm used to handling very, very large sums of money and very, very large budgets. So there's nothing that I can think of that would cause the people here to worry about my ability to do it.
Thank you. I love these questions. All right, so with such a large budget, what in your past should worry the citizens?
Nothing. This is one of those questions that's interesting because the district attorney has to work very closely with their staff. We have 2 people in there right now who actually work on the budget. We have 2 different sources of budget, technically 3 really. We have state funds that go into the special prosecution program for the prisons. It also helps pay for the investigator that we have. But we also have victim witness, which is completely paid for by state funds. And then, of course, our general office. So we have multiple revenue funds that come into us. And we have people who actually are specifically designated to work on those funds to make sure the budget inside of those funds is taken care of. And then their job, of course, is to communicate with the DA and make sure that all those things run smoothly. So will they be controlled by the DA? Yes. And will the DA make sure that those funds aren't being wasted or sent to places where they're not effective? Yes.
Still, what will you do to combat homelessness and beggars?
It's not necessarily a crime to be homeless. So, do we like homeless people taking up the streets and dirtying things up? No. If a homeless person commits a crime, are we going to prosecute it? Yes, absolutely. Do we want our streets cleaned up? Do we want people who are breaking into businesses because they're tired and need food? No. And when they do that, they're going to get prosecuted. That is our job. So, are we going to encourage people to come in here and remain homeless? Well, no. But we're not going to try to make policies as a DA's office about homelessness because that's not our job and it's not our proper duty.
What will you do to combat homelessness and beggars?
Nothing to combat homelessness, but what I will do is anything that's necessary to combat homelessness when they break the law. New York established a program called Broken Windows. I don't know if you've ever heard about that, but what they did is they made a point of going after the small crimes that they had ignored for a long, long time, and they found out after a period of time from Rudy Giuliani established this, that going after the small crimes consistently at a low level actually had an effect on the greater crimes. And so they began to see a lot less of those. So I wouldn't do anything to combat the homeless, only their crimes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I got another one?
Yeah.
So next question, I'm going to condense this one. What is the positive way to stop the drug dealers on the streets?
Put them in jail. I mean, it's just that simple. You know, we've got people out there who act as undercover agents, informers. Let's find out who they are and let's jail them. Jail them and make sure they get charged with the crime. Don't plead them down to something lesser. Make them pay for the crime that they've committed. That's the problem I see here is that, people are charged with crimes up here. They did the crime here, and they get to plead out down here. Charge them with the crime that they committed and stick to it.
What is the positive way to stop the drug dealers on the streets?
Obviously, as I've already talked about, you need to take drug dealers off the streets by prosecuting them. One of the ways to do that is if we could show that they're doing interstate commerce, meaning they're transporting the drugs, certain numbers, such as if they have large quantities, if they have firearms, we can send those to the federal government if they wish to accept them. Also, there's a very good cooperation with local law enforcement and the federal government so that if certain crimes that are for drug dealers are happening, they actually might take those crimes. We push those crimes into that situation. They're not going to be housed in our ADF. They're going to be housed in federal prison. That's going to save us a lot of tax money. And also means they're going to do more time and be gone for longer. The other thing to do also is forfeitures. Take their stuff. Take their cars. Take their money. Take stuff that's worthwhile. That builds up more money for us and creates income for the county.
So our last question tonight. How will you work with implementing self-wellness programs to get people off drugs and through mental wellness?
So right now, there's already a couple of statutes that are on the books that are mandatory. One of them is PC 1000, the other one is Prop 36. Both of those are a type of drug rehabilitation program. If somebody qualifies to get into those programs, they're entitled to do it. We don't have a choice. The great thing about those programs is that when you have somebody who's a drug user actually goes into it and is serious about getting well, there's a lot of help for them. Reaching out to people like the Aurora Network is one of them. Lassen Behavioral Health Services is another one. They have people in it that can help these drug addicts get off the drugs. Number one, by helping them find jobs, helping them find positive things in their lives rather than this spiraling crime that they're constantly in. So going into those things is very, very helpful and a very good thing to do to help people who are actually using drugs. Now the reverse side of that, which is unfortunate, but it's true, there's a lot of people that go in there and they...
Sorry, the question again?
Yeah. How will you work with implementing self-wellness programs to get people off of drugs through mental wellness?
Well, first of all, you can't get people into those programs unless they're willing to do it. And if you force them into those programs, all you've done is wasted taxpayers' money and everybody's time. So you have to develop something like, I know the churches have different outreach programs and things of that nature. You have to have people out there on the streets who really care about individuals and who want to see their lives become better. But they've got to be, the individuals themselves have to be wanting to do that. It's kind of like a 12-step program for alcoholics. You can't do anything with it until they're willing to get in there themselves. So they've got to want to do that. We can't force anything on them.
Thank you. So I want to thank our DA candidates for being here tonight. They did have a few candidates running for various offices, including DA, that chose or not to come, or they had other commitments or whatever it is. Sorry that they weren't here. I do thank all of you for being so quiet in here tonight. This was fabulous. And only Carol had her cell phone go off, but other than that. So for you that have neighbors, spouses, friends, or whatever that maybe wanted to be here but couldn't for whatever reason, this will be available. If you guys want to see how you did, you can check out the video. And the last thing I want to ask is for those of you that have plates and garbage around you, if you please pick that up. There's some garbage cans in the back if you help us out. Please deposit those. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. I hope to see more 30 and 40-year-olds here in the future. Thank you.